Hello everybody and welcome to the Dusk to Dawn Saloon. If it's your first time here, welcome. If you've been here before, welcome back. What's going on in this place? Well, let me tell you what's going on in this place, and I'm going to share you a funny story to start it out. A couple of weeks ago, I came downstairs and I found a life-size cardboard cutout of my wife sitting right over here. And I said, what is she doing? And I texted her, I said, hey, I just found this cardboard cutout of you in my basement. What's going on with this thing? She goes, well, I walked down there and all I saw was beer signs and no pictures of us. So I fixed that problem. So anyway, meet my wife, my lovely bride. You gotta love a woman that has a good sense of humor. Hey, what are we talking about today? Well, a really fun one. Something I've not been very knowledgeable about and I wanted to dive deeper on. Wax cups, and in particular we're going to talk about Hamm's wax cups. So I spoke with a couple fellas from our Hamm's Club, Randy Reneker and Lindsay Raditz, and asked them if they would do a sit-down talk with me and kind of give me a little bit of history, and talk about and learn, where do these come from, when did they start, how many are there, all that kind of good stuff. And what better time to do that was that a barbecue with beer collectors. We had people coming in from all over. It was hosted by a person that got me started in glass collecting. I blame him, it's all his fault. Jim Warner, great guy. He puts on an annual barbecue every year for the beer collectors, and he and his amazing, absolutely awesome wife, Jill, do such a great job. She probably does more work than him. But anyway, she did a great job with this barbecue. And while we were there, we set up and we decided to talk wax cups. Now, Dusk to Dawn Saloon, we started it at dusk. The sun was just barely hanging on and it went down as we went. We're lucky we turned a light on. You're going to see some bugs. You're going to hear some turkeys gobbling. The audio gets a little weird maybe in spots, but you know what? We had a heck of a good talk and I can't wait to share it. So pull up a stool, crack a cold one. Let's talk about Hamm's wax cups. Hey everyone, so Scooter here, and I'm at a barbecue with a plethora of Hamm's collectors. All the cronies, we're hanging out, we're having a good time. You may hear some noises in the background, you might not. You might hear some turkeys, they're back there gobbling. But today we're talking about wax cups, and I want to introduce you to two guys. Now don't take offense to this, guys, but I'm going to call them the elders. These are the guys that I look up to, that have mentored me, looked out for me, and helped me grow in this hobby from day one. They've been very giving and been very giving with the knowledge that they share, and I've been incredibly grateful. Randy Reneker.
Good to see you, Scooter.
Lindsay Raditz.
Hey.
Lindsay has helped me a lot with the glassware. Randy has helped me as well, but Randy's also helped me with a lot of the signs and other stuff. But these guys are into these wax cups, and I have a couple of them. I don't really know much about them, and I thought, what better thing than talk about them and learn about them. So first question, Lindsay, do you know when these wax cups were first created?
We can, by the script on the cups is the best way that we have. Plus, there's also on many of the cups, there's listing of the breweries that are represented, that are listed on the cups. So based on the script that Hamm's used at the time, the breweries, whether it's one or two or more, we're able to kind of pinpoint, well, not pinpoint, but at least, put an era on when the first cups came out. And we think that's around, 1954, 1955. Randy, do you agree that that's...
Yeah, that general range. I'd say maybe even a little earlier, knowing that the very first Hamm's Cup, the only brewery listed was St. Paul. And we know that the San Francisco brewery was opened by Hamm's in 1953. So therefore, if we have a wax cup that doesn't mention San Francisco, we know for a fact that wax cup was made prior to 1953. So yeah, generally speaking, you're in the range there.
Now these cups, they're paper coated in wax, right? Or is there something more to it going on?
Nope, that's it.
So these were made for sporting events or other things like that, disposable ephemera, things that you didn't expect to stick around, right?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Ephemera, that's the word. Things that are made and designed to be used once and tossed in the trash. And to your point, yeah, they're used at concerts, sporting events, celebrations. Hamm's would have Hamm's and other brewers. They would have occasions where they'd have celebrations. holiday parties, and they'd often
Promotions,
use
for their product. Yep.
Yep, perfect.
Yep.
So that's when they'd use these.
So do you know of any reason that what made them, I mean, do you know who the first company was that made these? I'm curious of when the very first Waxy was made. I mean, was it Hamm's? Was it somebody else? Hamm's was ahead of the time, right?
Well, I mean, I don't know, I don't follow other, breweries and when their wax cups came out, my focus has always been on Hamm's wax cups. Definitely, they Hamm's probably may not have been the first ones, because wax cups, started, back in the, from what I remember looking into the wax cup, evolution, wasn't probably until the late 40s, that they first started to appear on the market, and in, at least the searching that I've done. So, Hamm's wasn't far off from, maybe if they weren't the first, they weren't far off from being, second or third one to start using them.
Well, since our focus today is on Hamm's, I won't drag you guys through all the other brands that are out there. But what I would love to know is, where do they start? What can you tell me about where they start, so we can teach these other collectors, what to look at? Randy?
Yeah, so there's one wax cup out there that Lindsay and I hadn't seen it until, what was that, maybe 2 years ago that auction came up. Yep. Yours truly.
I found a wax cup in a barn, and I posted it on the Hamm page and said, "What is this?" And Randy says, "Scooter, you've got, I think, the first wax Hamm's cup ever made." I'm like, "That's pretty cool."
A legitimate barn find.
It was a legitimate barn find, riddled with raccoons that knocked over about 8,000 cans. So anyway, continue.
Yeah, well, and to put a point on what Lindsay had mentioned earlier, you can, one nice thing about Hamm's, you can get pretty darn close to what year a particular cup was made by the script, right? So this particular one here, this would be a second generation cup. You'd notice this has the slanted script. Some of the earlier wax cups, or I should say the earliest wax cup, it had the what would you call that one? The cursive?
A cursive that, the slanted Hamm's here that you see here, it runs straight across. All the letters, have a common, bottom, plane to them. The first generation that Randy's referring to, it's a cursive script, and it goes, it starts up and it goes up, at an angle.
Yeah, unique. It's a unique script, beautiful. Yep. Beautiful cup, and yeah, Scooter, that was the one and only one I've seen. So if anyone has one of those out there,
yeah, I know who has one. Yeah, the guy that bought mine, and I wish I never sold it.
Currently in the Hammerama, Lanesboro, Minnesota
Museum. Museum.
Yep. So
all right.
So that's our first one. As Lindsay mentioned earlier, one of the things we look for by noticing the breweries that are identified on the side. So this one here has St. Paul in San Francisco, and as I mentioned, we know San Francisco brewery was opened in 1953. We know that the LA brewery was opened in 1957, so we can say without a doubt this particular wax cup was produced between the years of 1953, no later than 1957. So this would be the second generation of wax cup.
All right. And then moving down the list.
So here's one interesting thing, and again, commenting on the breweries that Hamm's utilized, they would always represent those particular breweries on the cup. So going back to this first one here, you'll notice the script on the bottom is the iconic Hamm's from the land of sky blue waters. So that would be from the flagship brewery in St. Paul, Minnesota, or otherwise known as the Midwest Brewery. From the land of sky blue waters.
That was the tagline of the phrase used by Hamm's when they first started out in the Midwest.
In the Midwest, so that was a Midwest thing.
Correct.
Okay. Now I'm going to fray off a second. Was born in the land. Where was that?
That was used later. That was sometime in the early 70s.
So post Olympia.
Or
Olympia.
It was right about the time Olympia was in there. I'm not sure if it was Olympia's idea or whose idea, but it was during the Olympia era, I believe. So that was 1973, and I think those are some of the earlier ones where you'd see right in that time frame. But so that was the St. Paul. Now this one here, you'll notice that the tagline on the bottom, it's the refreshingness.
Now that is Baltimore.
That is Baltimore. Nice work.
So that would be East Coast.
That would be East Coast.
Okay.
Now,
I know that one.
that was great work. That's a tricky one. Now, I didn't bring an example for our video tonight, but I also have this same cup. Lindsay and I both have that same cup where the tagline on the bottom is refreshing as the land of sky blue waters. Refreshing as the land of sky blue waters would be
West Coast.
nice work.
See, I'm getting this stuff.
You're on it.
I'm getting this stuff. Now, when I look at this cup, and I don't know a lot, but one thing I do know is there's some writing down in here. What would people find? What kind of information? And I don't know if we can see it on the camera here, but there's writing that goes around the bottom. What would people learn about this cup from that writing?
You're going to learn two things mainly. First would be the size of the cup, so the ounce capacity. It'll be on the inside bottom rim, and it'll list the ounce capacity, and then it will also list the manufacturer of that wax cup. And so we know of any wax cup that has been, shared with us to date. There are 4 manufacturers. There's a Continental Can Company, there's Dixie, there is a Sweetheart, and then there is the Lily Company. So there are 4 companies, and each one of those, we don't know why or how Hamm's utilized those 4 different companies. I do know that Lily was used, for just the winter scene ones. And we also know that Continental Can Company only made one of the blue bands that Randy was showing earlier. And so, but then Sweetheart made a red bands, so what's in front of the camera right now. But then Dixie was their main go-to company. Dixie made pretty much probably 95% of the different wax cups that had that came out from the Hamm, came with the Hamm's logo on them, or Hamm's Brewery.
That's awesome. There's so much to this. Right? Was there anything else about this cup that you wanted to mention?
I think one really fun thing, and stepping back a couple of notches here. So it was really fun. A lot of guys, they casually collected the Waxies. They appreciated them. As you'll see, there's a lot of beautiful artwork. I mean, look at the artwork. Look at the time, the design that went into these cups here.
Yeah, the colors. I mean, Scooter, you talked about other breweries. And I've looked through just in my searches for Hamm's wax cups. I've come across Pabst, Budweiser, Schlitz. Some of the other breweries, their colors were they just didn't have the vibrant, eye-catching colors that Hamm's did. I mean, Hamm's really went all out on a wax cup that was literally designed to be used and tossed away.
One thing about Hamm's advertising that I've learned in my 3 years of collecting Hamm's has been they put a lot of pride into how they built a sign, metal parts, metal gears in some cases, but they made everything very colorful and pop, and the pride they took into all of this stuff. That's what's so neat about it to me.
Yeah, like I said, it's just they really went all out in Hamm. Hamm's, I think, in my book, and what I've seen from other brewery advertising, Hamm's just really put a lot of money, obviously, to do a 4-color wax cup when most of the other breweries are doing a 2-color,
sure, or
a 1-color. They took a lot of pride in whatever they did, whether it was a wax cup, a napkin. From A to Z, they really went all out in their advertising.
What's up next in the lineup?
This is a real fun one. Yeah, this is we call this the Yellow Tree Winter Scene. So again, that the colors, you can see the colors just absolutely pop. Using that iconic yellow pine tree logo that's on the Hamm's block script.
So you'd be noticing these trees up here.
There
Correct.
You go.
Yeah.
Yep. There you go. The pine trees. You can see on some of the cups. I think maybe the larger version. You can even You can even catch the pine cones that they utilize.
So there's
on the
multiple
pines.
sizes of this.
Great
Of
question.
course there are.
Yes,
Of course,
there
more
are.
for us to collect.
Yes. Yep. There
Yeah.
are 3 different sizes to that yellow tree.
Now, did they do that with all glasses, or were some glasses the same, only one size?
Nope. Some were only a single size. Some had multiple sizes to them. Multiple, ounces. So like the yellow trees that's up in front of the camera right now, they had a 14 ounce, an 18 ounce, and a 20 ounce. Now, this is an example of one of the cups where both Dixie and the Lily Cup Company made versions of this same cup. Now, the difference between the two, once you look them side by side, the Dixie version, their blending of colors was really, fine. So, the blending of the blues and what you see like in the skies and stuff like that, very, very transitional, subtle shading. The Lily Company used a series of dots, of dot colors. So, I mean, you can literally made their shading was basically different sized dots.
Really?
And so the Lily Company, and whether it was their intent or whether it was just their technology at the time, but like I said, the vivid colors of the Dixie blend really evenly, and their shading is subtle. The Dixie is a dot matrix based cup, whether you consider a little bit more rudimentary, or it's just a different way to print a cup.
I have a question. I noticed something about this cup that's different from the others. It doesn't say refreshing as, the refreshingest, or from. It says the land of sky blue waters. Is this, I've never seen it just stated as the land of sky blue waters.
Yeah, that's a
that?
tough one. I mean, I think, potentially 2 things. Number one, a smaller cup, and based on the design, they may have just run out of spacing, and
Okay.
they just got to kind of cut the phrase down a little bit to fit, the space they had on that cup, maybe for, in relation to the graphics on
Is
it.
that what you would agree with?
I would say the same. Yeah, it also allowed them to use it in multiple markets. So Hamm's advertising department, they had I'm not sure if it was a regulation, a requirement, a rule, but as we mentioned earlier, using the different taglines, from the land, refreshing as, it's refreshingest. Hamm's advertising had an internal rule, if you will, where a Midwest product would not use a West Coast tagline, and vice versa. So that's why you'll notice many of the signs that you'd find on the West Coast. We know it's a West Coast sign.
Yeah.
We know it's a Baltimore sign. It's always going to use the tagline that represents that particular region, that brewery. So they did the same for their wax cups, of course, and that's one possible hypothesis that allowed them to use this one here at multiple breweries. And if you'll notice on the bottom, this one also calls out the Houston brewery.
Oh, it
So
does.
there's not many of them with the Houston brewery. So
Now,
this
Houston
one
was
here,
very short-lived.
very short-lived. Yeah, I believe 64 to 67.
Okay. And what, have you heard any history on this of why it was? It just they loved their Lone Star and they didn't want to give it up?
Well, the short story behind it is when the Hamm's legal team executed the lease on the building. So it was formerly the Gulf Brewery in Texas. Howard Hughes, the eccentric, one word to describe eccentric, he was the owner of the Gulf Brewery. So he had leased it to Hamm's, and the Hamm's legal team at the time, when they executed the lease, they didn't put in there a clause to extend the lease. So when the lease expired, they ended the association with Hamm's, and there was also a fire at the plant. But
Just happened to be one of those.
yes, so that was it for the Houston
That's interesting.
project.
There's so much stuff. I just love this. I love it. I love it. What's
fun.
next on our list?
Next on our list, Lindsay, talk about this big boy.
Yeah. So what you're seeing here is if you turn the cup, this is a campaign that Hamm's did. And they had commercials, they had napkins, round and round, never stops refreshing. They had commercials that went through that. This is one of a fairly tough wax cup to get, because right now we only know of, as far as the collectors that we've conversed with, we only know of, I think, three examples of this cup.
Okay.
There are three sizes. This, again, is another one of those situations where there's three sizes of this cup. There's a 7 ounce, there's a 14 ounce, and then there's this one here is the 20 ounce. The 20 ounce is a rare bird. This is one where we only know of 3 people that have one. So definitely, for whatever reason, the 7 ounce cups, the 14 ounce cups, a lot of them out there. I won't say they're a dime a dozen, but it's not hard to run across them. The 20 ounce, it wasn't until the first one that came up was something that I acquired through an online auction, and it was a gamble because I just saw a picture.
Sure.
But the size of this cup in relation to other items in the picture, I was able to kind of extrapolate and say, well, this looks bigger than a 14 ounce. It's certainly bigger than a 7 ounce. It's everything I can see looks bigger than a 14 ounce. And I knew based on some other documentation there was a 20 ounce out there. Had never seen one, never talked to anyone that had one. So it was an online auction, took a gamble, rolled the dice. When I got the package in the mail, opened it up, 20 ounce, just was tickled pink because I never first example I'd ever known of anybody having one.
That's awesome.
So yeah, but I mean, like I said, it's the campaign itself, from the land of sky blue waters, but the round and round never stops refreshing. Hamm's really did a lot of stuff with that commercial, that tagline.
This is such a neat one, and I don't want to touch it too much now that I know the history. Now, this guy down here, the next one here, I've seen this one a lot. Is this a pretty common?
Yeah, I'd say that's one of the common ones. That's the Hamm It Up campaign. I believe that was either 1966 or 1967 is when they had the Hamm It Up campaign. And yeah, that was a real popular one at the time.
Very straight lettering, slightly different than the previous glass. Yes. We don't have the curves coming up off the M's as heavy. The apostrophe is not there because it doesn't say hams, it just says ham. That's pretty neat. I love that phrase. The Hamm It Up is one of my favorite things.
Yeah. Yeah, it's a great one. It's a popular campaign, short-lived popular campaign. They had buttons and banners and
again commercials,
t-shirts,
commercials saying Hamm It Up. It was. If you get on YouTube, you can see a lot of the old commercials, and you're going to see that Hamm It Up is one of them.
And I missed it. I'm sorry. What year range would this be in?
66 and 67, right around 66 and 67.
Okay. That's fantastic.
And I forget how many versions, how many sizes of that one did they make?
There's is it 2 sizes? No, I think it's just one size.
Just one of that.
I think it's just one size. It's a 14 ounce.
Okay.
Yep.
All right. What's next on our list here?
So I'll take this one because this is my favorite thing to talk about.
Somebody wants to take it.
Yeah. So my first, I'd been collecting Hamm stuff for several years, signs, glasses, and I went down to South Dakota visit my sister. And we were going through some antique shops, and I was walking along this row of tall lighted. I mean, there was like 8 foot or 7 foot tall lighted, display cases.
Sure.
And this 14 ounce version here. So what Randy put out there right now is a 7 ounce, but this 14 ounce version here, there was a stack of like 4 of them that was on the top of the shelf. And again, this is a lighted cabinet, and so they were taking in all the light, and I looked up there, and they were just pristine cups. There was like new old stock. There was no yellowing, there was no browning on them. They were just perfect, but they're just right under the light, and it just like it glowed. And my eyes hit that, and it's like, oh. That really is eye-catching cup, and I never looked at wax cups before that. So I looked at it, and it was a locked case. So, okay, I just made a mental note and, kept, going through the rest of the store. And then I kind of contemplating, do I like it? Do I want to get it? And by the time I got done walking through the rest of the store before we left, I convinced myself, hey, I'm gonna get it. There was 4 of them, and I bought 2, just in case, And that was my introduction into the foray of the the waxy world.
That's what sucked you in, and now you wish you bought all 4.
Yes, yeah. But they're not hard to find. But in that condition,
I don't think I've seen that one.
Yeah.
But again, I'm a rookie when it comes to Waxies.
Yep.
I'm cheap.
Yeah.
I'm like, hey, are they under $10? Awesome, I'll grab one. That's me.
Exactly. And that's the thing with these wax cups. Some of them, they have a tendency to yellow on the edges if they're stacked together. The rims will yellow, or they'll get a brownish hue to them.
That will happen if you stack them together?
No, it's just what happens though is that a lot of times if they're stacked together and they're not in a good environment, if not in a protected environment,
leakage.
So there's exposure to air, light, whatever.
Sure.
It starts to yellow and brownish. They'll get yellow and brown spots on the rims, and so like anything else, that's as fragile as paper is, even though they're wax coated, the condition is important.
Mm-hmm. So now we're moving down, and I see a newer logo that was when I started drinking Hamms. It looks a lot more familiar.
Yeah. This is for many years, since the early '70s, all the way up through 2022, I think, is this was what you saw on the cans.
Now that lion's crest that's on this cup.
Yep.
That was started with Olympia, correct?
I am not sure about that.
I think that actually started in 1969.
Oh, it did?
Yep, that was 69, so that was during the Hubline era.
Hubline?
Yep, Hubline purchased Hamm's in 1965.
I didn't know
And then they owned it until 1973 when Olympia bought the brand.
Olympia bought it from them.
Yep.
Oh, see, folks?
The close.
There's so much to learn in this stuff, and oh man, that's just neat. Now, okay, hold on. Another difference I see in this guy versus that guy is we've got the blue hash marks up on the top.
Well, there's more than that, because not only that is, look at the Lion logo between the two.
Oh, it's blue as well.
Right. So this one has the blue stripes. This one has the gold stripes on top. The Lion logo
is all blue.
Is all blue. This one is blue and gold.
Okay.
So
Randy,
again,
what happened with that?
Oh man. Well, Lindsay and I were actually chatting about that earlier today. One of the things Lindsay hypothesized is maybe that was paying homage to Hamm Special Light. The Hamm Special Light can, if you look at the top of the Hamm Special Light, unfortunately we no longer have that in our lineup. But
sad thing.
The Hamm Special Light, they utilized a really similar blue band on the top, the lines like that. So I don't know. I thought it was a good hypothesis.
Yeah,
actually.
it's I've always wondered too, and it's one of those things where was it just they wanted to do a change, or was it some other reason? Was it a little nod to the Special Light then?
A little wag of the tail to the Special Light.
Yeah.
Boy, hey Hamms. There's a lot of Hamms drinkers that would really love that back.
Yeah.
We hear about it a lot on the Hamms pages. It makes me laugh.
Yep.
Don't yell at me. I wasn't a fan of the Special Light. I didn't like the flavor of it. But man, there's a lot of people that wish it was here.
Yeah, I drank Special Light until they took it away, and then now I'm drinking the full test, the high test.
So you put on 10 pounds since you had to switch.
And then again like a lot of times or several other times they've got variations of the cup. The one that we had earlier here was a 14 ounce. This is another example of where they had a 7 ounce. And again, it's the size. Well, why would somebody do a 7 ounce cup? I mean, you're not going to go to some place and pay whatever for a 7 ounce cup of beer, because by the time you pour into it, really, if you got a little bit of a head there, you probably only have 6 ounces.
So would this be used in the tasting room?
Well, there's other times where Hamm's did promotions. So Hamm's may have gone out to promote their beer. They may have gone out and they're not charging for it. They're giving away free beer for some reason, a promotion at a liquor store or a distributorship. They may have then used a 7 ounce cup because you don't have to put that much in it. And so it's free beer. You're giving away a sample,
sure,
but you're not giving away 14 ounces or 18 ounces. You're giving away probably...
You're not giving out the whole house.
Exactly. Yeah, it makes a keg go a long way when you're giving out 6 ounces at a time.
It's similar to some of the shell glasses. The shell glasses that we all collect.
Yeah.
Those are typically 7, 8, maybe 9 ounces.
Yeah.
Same thing. More bang for their buck. It was the breweries did that to allow the tavern owner to increase their margins.
Right.
I'm looking at this one down here. I've been staring at it. My ADD is on fire. I keep looking at this thing. I've never seen this. Yep. I don't know what it is. What is that one on the end?
So yeah, this is something that, when Randy and I were already into collecting for probably 6-8 months, maybe even a year. I don't know that I saw this one any earlier than that.
Yeah, nor did I.
Yep. And so what we ended up finding out is all of a sudden one of these things popped up, and it's like, but it was with other cups. So you had maybe a dozen, or maybe you had a full sleeve of cups. But this was the piece in the full sleeve. This was the one that would sit in the top.
Remove and throw away.
Exactly.
The ultimate piece of ephemera right there.
Holy cows. Now, how many of those got saved?
Right.
Not many.
Well,
have you seen many?
Again, people would save the cups because, they had some nice colors to them. But what we call the protector sleeve, or the protector cup, was designed, this was the very top one in the sleeve. So when you loaded the machine, or wherever you dispensed, you pulled from the bottom, you pulled this one out, you threw it away. It was to keep anything from getting into the first cup, the top one. So you open the sleeve. If there was a little bit of dirt or something happened to fall into this sleeve, protector, you threw that away, and then your first cup was still pristine and ready to use.
And maybe it helped keep the form of the top cup.
Well, I think the cups were all together, so I don't know so much of form, but it was really the protector. Because Scooter, read the print.
It says, this top protector should be removed and thrown away before Dixie cups are inserted into the dispenser.
There we go.
So you know me, Scooter. I like the history of anything.
Yes.
Any piece in my collection. Well, the majority of the pieces in my collection. One of my favorite things about each of those is being able to walk over to it, and I can tell my guest, this is where this came from. This is how I acquired it. This is the history behind it. This one, I actually can tell you the exact history of it. So on eBay, maybe 3-4 years ago, 3 years ago, I picked up a sleeve of this one here. It's the Refreshingest. So it was an entire sleeve of wax cups, still in the plastic wrapper, and the advertisement, or the ad on eBay, it mentioned that these were from the Memorial Stadium. So Memorial Stadium's where the Baltimore Orioles played.
Okay.
So everything made sense, and that's what the seller claimed. I reached out to him afterward, and he said he had bought them at an auction with some other miscellaneous stuff from the Baltimore Orioles organization. So this particular one came in a rack or a sleeve of Baltimore It's Refreshingest wax cups. So that's the exact history on this particular one. And I should have mentioned at the beginning of the video, with the exception of this one here, all these wax cups, these are, they're a little scuzzy condition, some of them. These are ones that I have as extras or traders.
You trusted them with me because you knew I'd be touching them.
The other ones that, Lindsay and I are the same. We have our wax cups displayed just like we would $300 shell glass.
Yep.
These are, we handle these with kid gloves, so these are primarily extras.
So about how many, okay, hold on. Now how do I word this? I want to ask you how many variations there are, keeping in mind there's different sizes. So let's go with how many different labels there are. Do you know of how many variations there are for that?
Okay, so I have not broken it down in multiple ways to be able to answer that question. But what I can tell you is that based on the ounce capacity, based on the variations of colors, the manufacturers, the breweries on the side, the different breweries, all of those are contributing factors. So you may have the same cup with it's the Refreshingest, but if one is made by Continental Can Company and one is made by Dixie,
they're
that's a
different.
variation.
Yeah.
There are right now, and I actually have documented all of these. It's one of my things is just being kind of one of those people that like to keep track of things. I want to know what I have, what I'm missing.
He's very analytical.
Yes, thank you.
But that's why we love him.
Yes, and so there are right now 44 documented variations of Hamm's wax cups.
That's sizes, logos, everything.
Correct, and that's not including
Wow.
the sleeve protector. There's actually right now there's 2 different sizes that we've been able to find, and that's the 14 ounce and the 18 ounce.
Wow.
Obviously, there's 20 ounce cup versions, there's 7 ounce, but I have not, nobody I know of has ever run across a sleeve protector for either the 20 or the 7 ounce cups.
Wow.
So most likely they're out there, but nothing has ever popped up yet.
Now, let's kind of switch gears on this thing on you. I love helping new collectors. As a fairly new guy who really went head over heels fast, if a new guy was coming in to buy these, what can they expect for like the hunt? Is there a guide available? Are we working on a guide for them? And then pricing wise, I know I said it in one of my other videos that an item is worth as much as somebody wants to pay for it. So if they don't have it, they may pay, the sky's the limit.
Yep.
But where would they start? This end is going to be my guess. That might be the little more
definitely, definitely this end. These are the latest wax cups that are out there. These are the most commonly available. And so you're looking at prices of $5 to $10 a cup,
Sure.
depending on what you're willing to pay and what the seller's asking. From there, then the price. You start to get into the ones that have the better graphics. Things like like the winter scenes really are more eye-catching. Honestly, like the winter scene here, the Hamm's the Smooth or the Gold Trees. Likely those are, you might end up paying a little bit more than you would for those than you would maybe this Ham It Up version.
And it also depends on what area you live on, how much availability Ham stuff is there.
Correct.
If it's an area with less, you're in Nebraska, maybe you don't have as much of it there.
Yes.
So it's all subject to your market and availability.
Right. Yep.
This is awesome, guys. I really appreciate everything that you've shared with me. Is there anything else you'd like to maybe put out to a new collector that would be getting into the hobby?
It's just, more or less look at your options. There's online auctions out there. eBay is there. Definitely beer shows, Breweriana shows, they still, wax cups still appear at those shows. And so it's an inexpensive. Now granted, some of the one cup that we know of, the very first cup with just the St. Paul Brewery on it, we've only ever seen one example come up, and the price that it sold for reflected the fact that it was only a single example we've ever seen come up. But for the most part, other cups, it's not signage. Signs are really expensive. But the cups, these are really eye-catching. The colors are vibrant. I love to look at them, and I'm in the process of building a lighted cabinet to display mine in, because having a little bit of light pass through these, it just makes them pop.
I bet.
And so it's really a easy way for a collector to kind of start collecting something of Hamm's and still have the thrill of the hunt. When you've got 44 variations that we know of right now, it's again, the thrill of the hunt and the thrill of the collecting, finding a new example, a new variation you don't have, this is not going to break the bank.
Randy?
Yeah, I would agree. Everything Lindsay said was right on the money. It's a great entry level product, I think, or item to get into Hamm's collecting.
Yep.
These here, there's another one. It's a 7 ounce. It's a rare 7 ounce of this guy right here, the red band. I bought it at a garage sale, and I think it was $3. I think, as a matter of fact, I still have the little sticker underneath it. And when Lindsay and I first started really talking and getting together on wax cups, I think that was one of the first times he had seen that particular wax cup, and he said, where in the heck did you get this? It was a garage sale, $3. So that's still out there. That's the thrill of the hunt. You can get them on eBay, you can get them in auction. For me, getting out there and getting after it, that's really fun. When you find them in the wild, it's a blast.
All right, I've got a question I want to put out the end of this video here. I want to thank you all for stopping by. I want to thank you all that stuck around and watched the whole thing. If you're here, please like, please subscribe. Bear with us. The sun's going down as we're doing this. Luckily, we put a light up so you can still see us. Lindsay and Randy, I have one question for you. Every morning I wake up and I think of 3 things that I'm grateful for. Gratitude is very important to me, and I just curious for you, just tell me one thing in life that you're grateful for.
It's the friends that I have gained through the Hamm's collecting hobby. Obviously this guy here, and there's a ton of other people that have really just made our lives a lot better. Because of a common interest, and just genuine people willing to help others. That's what I take away from this hobby. I mean, we've got these things that we're out there still looking for, to show, but in the end, it's the back and forth that Randy and I have been able to share, with our waxy collecting ventures, and that's what it means the most to me. I mean, it's a way for us to connect with other people, and that's really important to me.
Randy?
Yeah, I mean, he stole my thunder. I mean, really, other than my family, most important thing in the world to me, just the friends that I made in this silly hobby. And I have good friends that I've known since kindergarten that are still very close friends of mine. But I'll talk about a Lindsay, a Jason, a Jimmy. I'll talk about these guys and my lifelong friends. I must be a Hamm's friend. It is. So guys like you that I've met, you guys are going to be lifelong friends. We met through a silly hobby of collecting dang Hamm's beer stuff, and I love it.
Yes. I am so grateful for my wife and kids, of course, but the friendships with you guys has meant the world and made my life better. So, folks, we're all done. It's time for that favorite part of the show for me. It's the final toast. So here we go. Raise your cups. Love your family. Love your friends. And always, always, always love you some Hamms. We'll see you next time.